I have two guests on today that are professional cuddlers. One who is from Belfast, but we start with going to the United States. We have Felicity on the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
The one line, the title that I know you by anyway, professional cuddler.
Yeah.
Tell me a wee bit more about that.
Okay. The cuddle industry, I don't know exactly when it started, but there are a bunch of cuddle companies such as Cuddle Party, and I'm sure there have been independent professional cuddlers who have been working for longer than I've been alive. I started professional cuddling when I was 19 years old, which is pretty young. There aren't that many statistics with my industry because there are so few cuddle companies that are international, and unfortunately it's not like a huge part of the cultural zeitgeist. And I would say that a majority of people who enter professional cuddling start when they're at least 30. So I was a baby. And
so we have this TV show, now this was ages ago, about this guy, and he goes around the world and he does different things on his bucket list, right? And one of them was to go into a tent full of people, and he didn't know what was happening there, but it was a cuddle party. So they all spent the night. They all spent the night in this tent.
Sounds like Cuddle Oasis.
Right. Okay. I'm not exactly sure of the right name of it.
I've never been to Burning Man, which I think is a music festival in the Nevada desert in the United States. But from what I've scoured through Reddit, there is a camp within Burning Man called Cuddle Oasis. And so it's like a giant tent where people cuddle. I'm just repeating what I saw on Reddit. I've never been there, but you could be describing Cuddle Oasis.
How did you come across this in the first place?
That's a very good question. So when I was still new to this job, I was familiar with the Cuddle websites, but not necessarily the Cuddle agencies. You actually have manager or an employer or a boss, whatever you like to call it, but you actually have people that you can rely on, and they will help you with like scheduling, with payment, and they'll like train you and make sure that you are an expert on consent, and the agencies actually have your back.
The question people are going to be asking is, what exactly happens?
Well, back when I used Cuddle websites, I'm now part of a Cuddle agency, but back when I was on Cuddle websites, I would just look up anyone within a 50-mile radius from where I lived, and I would message them. Something along the lines of, "Hi, my name is Felicity, and I read your profile. Can we schedule a cuddle session?" I would refuse to have just a back and forth small chat with a person. I would immediately go for the sale, and believe it or not, that worked. I will not waste my time. My time is money. Every once in a while, I'll have a person violate my boundaries. Sometimes I meet up at their house. Sometimes we go to a hotel. Sometimes we go to an Airbnb. I do not invite people to my house. I would definitely not cuddle them in the same bed that I sleep in with my significant other. That's like a very strict boundary with me.
And can I ask what your partner thinks?
Oh, yeah. I've been through what feels like a multitude of romantic relationships since I started my career. Only two very long-term relationships, though. I recently got out of a 2.5-year long relationship, so he was aware of my job from day one. And my current boyfriend and I recently surpassed 1 year. He also knew of my job since day one, but both of them told me that I'm the first professional cuddler they've ever met, or at least to their knowledge. most professional cuddlers don't announce it to everyone they meet. And something that does come up, like, what is the hardest part of your job? Something that I recall is people saying the hardest part of my job, honestly, is trying to explain to other people what I do.
Mm. And what happens if someone, is in contact with you and you're not so sure of them when you get there, if that makes sense?
Ooh, yeah, I've had that experience many times. And when I was 19, I didn't do any kind of background check on the people I spoke to. Like, I would know their name was Music Man 93014, and they'll give me their phone number, or I give them my phone number. Like, I really did not know what to do in regards to my safety when I started. So there have been times where I was like, this is going to be awesome. And then once I meet up with them in person, oh my gosh, I could just drone on and on about bad experiences, like times where person just never answers their door, and then when I text them I'm here, they just, I guess their number is no longer in service. Times when people would say, okay, let's meet up at this one cafe that's a walking distance from my house, and then they're like, you know what, let's not walk to my house directly, let's just go on a hike for an hour before we start cuddling. And it's just, I literally can go on and on and on about people who have made me feel uncomfortable. And to this day, I still get some of those individuals, but I'm a lot better now at enforcing my boundaries.
And do you think, I mean, quite a deep question, but do you think that a lot of the people, a lot of the clients actually have partners anyway, but
Yes,
they go out of their way?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of their partners are aware that they see professional cuddlers. And I luckily have never been contacted by an angry, disgruntled significant other or ex-spouse. I am assuming that's going to happen one day. And when that happens, I'll just tell myself it's a rite of passage. But for a lot of people, physical contact is not their number one love language. It might be the love language they resonate with the least, but then they marry someone where physical contact is one of the most important, or the most important love language to them. And it's not a deal breaker for a lot of people. A lot of people will stay married to that individual, but every now and then see professional cuddlers.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. And you've definitely opened my eyes into being a professional cuddler. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Peter.
And there goes Felicity. If I'm honest, that chat kind of left me with more questions than answers. And I did want to get another view on this. So I did a quick Google search for professional cuddling in Northern Ireland. And I came across Amy at Irish Nurture Professional Cuddling. So I had no idea that this was a thing right here in Belfast. Paying someone to cuddle you. We have Amy on the podcast right now. Thanks for joining me.
Hi there, Peter. Nice to chat with you.
And Amy, is it the same here when Felicity was using the phrase of being a professional cuddler and talking about cuddle clubs, etc.?
Well, it depends on what your needs are with cuddling. I know down in Dublin they have a cuddle club. Now, that's normally a bunch of people get together in a room and they'll come up with an agreement on boundaries and consent. There's no such one I know of up in Northern Ireland at the minute, but there's myself. I'm operating the only one-to-one professional cuddling service in the country, and I think there's a big difference between them. I know myself, I love cuddling one-to-one with people, but I don't think I would be quite so comfortable in a group setting. I have done it before. I think it's a brave thing to do, and people have different needs and so on. But I would more be focused on the one-to-one cuddle style, as I think maybe most people would be as well.
Is there a main reason why someone comes to you first of all? So when someone you never met them before and they decide this is what they want to try out, Why is that? Why are they wanting to try it?
Sure. I mean, it's usually quite simple. Is someone hasn't had their touch needs met in a long time. Quite often, I'm speaking with people who have went through some trauma in their past, whether in childhood or with past relationships. And it may be with the sort of pain that they've had that they haven't had access to even a basic hug from another person in a long time. And now, as mammals and as humans, we all need touch from time to time. It's not really an optional part of our existence as human beings. So when people come along, it's usually because there's been a period in their life that they've been unable to get access to this. They've maybe went to counseling and therapy, and they've recognized even through years of that sometimes there's just no substitute for a cuddle.
It's actually interesting you say that, because I guess it's a thing that a lot of us just take for granted. We don't really think about it.
Yes, absolutely. And, with this job, I'm kind of sad in a way that it exists, because I wish that no one was ever in such a state in their life that they needed to get in touch with a professional cuddler. But unfortunately, some people fall through the gaps. It's great that for most people who would maybe find it strange and so on, that's great, because that means that they're getting those needs met, or maybe those needs aren't quite as strong for them. But there are certain people who just, for whatever reason, have fallen through the cracks. Something's went, quite wrong in their lives. Also, you can get people who maybe are getting their touch needs met in some way, but actually want a little bit more. So the interesting thing about a cuddle session, the way is I try to think about it is, how often in your life can you get in a situation where for 50 minutes you're getting a cuddle, but it's only your needs being focused on? So like if you're with a friend or an intimate partner, there's obviously a lot of give and take and reciprocity and so on there. But in a cuddle session, it's actually quite different, because it's all about the client's needs and what they want. So when you come into a session with a professional cuddler, what you're getting is actually something that you might not even get if you do have access to hugs, which is that real focused attention just on you for that period of time. And I think it can be a really powerful experience for people.
And do you see like a change in someone if they've been to you several times? Do you see that?
Oh, absolutely. Like you can imagine in the first session that someone comes in. This is the part where people think it's weird, because you're coming in to see a stranger. And of course, it's going to be awkward with a stranger. So there's never been a client who has come in the first session and we talk about our boundaries and consent and go through all the rules and everything like that. They never say straight away, let's jump into this really deep, intimate cuddling. It takes time to move across to that. But by providing a non-judgmental environment, an environment where the client never has to second guess what's going on with me or try and please me, because I'll always let them know. And when people find that they can relax into that, usually by the end of the first session, clients are feeling very relaxed and very comfortable. Because maybe if they haven't got that need met for a while, it only takes 20 seconds of human contact to get the oxytocin release. And for a lot of people, a 20-second hug can be enough. But if you're getting that focused attention for an hour, it can be quite an intense experience and quite an emotional experience for the client and for myself, because there's a lot of energy that comes into the room.
Because there is that old thing that people say, a hug will add like so many years onto your life. I mean, maybe that's not totally true, but I guess it feeds into what you're saying of it just gives you a little boost.
Absolutely. I mean, again, having human contact isn't really optional. I consider it like sunlight. A human being can live without sunlight, but it's going to be kind of a stunted life. You know what I mean? You can do it, but it's not ideal. So for some people, it can be a little boost. For some people, it can be life-changing. For some people, it can be really, really difficult in the way that some people who maybe haven't had touch for years will come in, and even the idea of touching the tip of another person's finger can be way, way, way too intense for them. So I think everyone has a sort of individual relationship with their touch needs, and it can be really variable how much it actually means to a person.
And tell me a little bit about your setup then, because when I was speaking previously, to Felicity. She was out and about. She was going to people's houses and so on. You're kind of based in one place then?
Yes, I'm based in Belfast. Now, obviously, COVID and lockdowns changed things.
Yeah.
Before that, I did have a service where I could go out and meet people, because obviously sometimes there's people who have accessibility issues that maybe traveling wouldn't be appropriate for them, and I would prefer to help them. I do intend on opening that up myself again now that sort of lockdowns have passed and so on, but I'm actually in the process of moving salons at the moment. But the setup I have a room, there's a raised mattress, you can find it all on my website at irishnurture.com. It's just a little cozy place with some candles, plants, some light music. And when I'm speaking with a client, I'll always try to individualize it. For example, some clients might want to come in and watch a movie together, so we'll get the TV set up. Some people might have different needs where they might just want to sit in a chair for the entire session. Sometimes people just want to lie on the floor or something like that. So before a session, I'll always ask a client what it is that they need. So as much as I'm in the one location with the salon, it's actually quite changeable depending on who's coming in. And I like to have it sort of individualized that way, because it's all about the client's comfort at the end of the day, and whatever I can do to facilitate that.
And I guess for yourself, you must be a people's person yourself to do all that. I mean, I guess some people would find it quite awkward.
Oh, absolutely. You know, when I go out and I tell people about this job, they say, that's a bit strange. That's a bit weird. Oh, I couldn't believe anyone would be into that. But I suppose I've had my own issues in the past. You know, the reason I took this up is because years ago, I had went a very long time without touch. And, you know, I would generally be kind of a cuddly person anyway. But I got into a bad state for a while after a bad relationship myself, and was quite isolated for a while. And so I recognized how important touch was, and that I wanted to share that with other people. And when other people were able to help me out with my touch needs, I recognized just how amazing that felt for me. And through doing this work, just seeing how rewarding it is to be able to give that back. As a practitioner of this, I'm getting the oxytocin boost as well, which makes the work extra rewarding. And, you know, with dopamine and oxytocin, it can get a little bit of addictive sometimes. So I love when clients come in and we can just have a relaxing time together. And it's just a very, very rewarding job to be doing. I was speaking with a prospective client from overseas today who says, you know, since they've moved to Northern Ireland, they've noticed people here are maybe a little bit more reticent, a little bit more keep to themselves, a little more sort of don't go too far outside of the ordinary. So I do come up against that. You know, when people hear you're a professional cuddler, they maybe think that that's a code word for something maybe a little bit more suspect.
Yeah.
And I can understand how that would come into people's mind. There's a very big conflation in our society between touch and sex, and this idea that touch has to lead to sex. But I think it's more down to just a sort of a misunderstanding of what it is. And of course, you know, you say yourself, when you're getting your own touch needs met, you wouldn't even think of something like this, which is why it's sort of a very bespoke kind of industry.
Well, no, it's very interesting, and thanks for coming on to hear that kind of local thing, because it is sometimes, you know, things you hear and you think certain countries are doing it, but actually it's on your own doorstep as well.
Yes, absolutely. I recognise that no one was doing cuddling up here, professional cuddling. There are some people who are unprofessional cuddlers. There's also the cuddle parties that we spoke about earlier, but I think what a lot of people are needing now, especially after all the lockdowns, is just that opportunity to be able to connect with one person and to be fully heard, seen, and recognised for a little while. And just 1 hour in a cuddling session can make a massive difference to people's lives. I've seen it. I really don't like the idea of people suffering in silence. It's an amazing opportunity, and I hope to expand in the future and take on a few more people, just so that people in Northern Ireland and Ireland who need this service can feel that they have access to getting met what is such a very, very basic human need.
Very interesting. And what is the website then for yourself?
So our website is www.irishnurture.com.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Yes, thank you very much, Peter, for having me on. It's been wonderful.
Thanks to Amy and thanks to Felicity before that. Is that something that you would try? Professional cuddling or going to see a professional cuddler? Well, all the links are in the description if you want to find out more. Big thanks to our guests, and of course a big thanks to you for listening to the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, and please do leave a little review and a rating as well if you enjoyed the podcast. That is what helps us as a brand new podcast to kind of climb those charts and get noticed a little bit more for that review and rating. Until next time.